to the She Leads podcast. I'm your host, Adrienne Garland, CEO and founder of She Leads Media, a global media company dedicated to the advancement of women leaders and entrepreneurs worldwide. I'm also an adjunct professor at NYU and Rice University, where I teach on the topic of entrepreneurship. I'm a mom to two wonderful young men and married to my best friend from college. Join me each week as I dive into raw conversations with remarkable, uncompromising, and inspirational women entrepreneurs and leaders. My hope is that these conversations and their advice will encourage you to put yourself out there and gain the visibility that you and all women deserve. We're all about stripping away the sugar-coated conversations and moving boldly in the direction of our magnificent dreams. For far too long, women have been conditioned to soften their words, modify their actions, and show up in the world to conform to outdated at best and harmful at worst cultural norms and ideals. Why? To keep those who are outside of the power structures from gaining power, prestige, wealth, and influence. This has prevented women from being recognized and respected as the powerful leaders that we truly are. The She Leads podcast is here to shine the light on all the incredible women, to encourage us to show up, speak up, and showcase the amazing work we do. Speak with confidence about the innovative and transformational thoughts that we have, and celebrate the positive impact that we are making in this world, both personally and professionally. So let's do this. Let's lead. Hello, and welcome back to the She Leads podcast. This episode is brought to you by the She Leads Podcast Network. It's the podcast network for women by women. So today we're welcoming Amanda Samoyloff to the She Leads podcast. She is a woman of many talents and passions. She's an actor, a writer, a producer, and a poet who, by the way, recently won the Ventura County Poetry Project, contest. So congratulations, Amanda. That is amazing. She's also the founder and principal of SamoyloffPR and is a specialist in branding and PR. Welcome to the She Leads podcast, Amanda.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. It's so exciting. I love your podcast and all of your guests are amazing. So thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you so much, because many of the guests that have been on this show are clients of yours, and they are all super incredible and amazing. And I always feel so honored when you reach out to me and pitch me these wonderful women that are doing incredible things in the world. And you are the person behind all of that. So, of course, getting to know you a little bit, and I see all the things that you do. I'm just so inspired by you. And I said, you know what? Not only should you be pitching other people, you need to pitch yourself and come on the podcast. So I'm so happy that you're here. So Amanda, tell us a little bit about yourself. Like I said in the beginning, you're a multi-passionate, multi-talented person. Let's walk it back though. How did you sort of get into the whole world of PR in the first place?
Well, I went to Cal State Long Beach, and my sophomore year, I was kind of lost. I didn't know what I needed to do. I didn't have I wasn't as part of a sorority or anything like that. So I was looking for clubs or something to kind of join. And so I found speech and debate. And I ended up actually being really good at it. My senior year, I was national champion in speech and debate. I know, it was wild. It was kind of competitive acting. I was on the speech side of things, right? And so I won prose interpretation. I was fourth place in persuasion of something that I wrote, and second place in poetry. And a bunch of different things. And when I came out of college, I went right into Hollywood. I was I'm going to be an actress. Let's go. As you know, being an actress also comes with auditions, constantly going in front of people and being rejected. Oh. But also just up against so many people. So I was also bartending, right? And I was working on the Sunset Strip. So with all the rock and rollers, and a few of them I dated, but I was a very nice girlfriend and got people to their shows, right? I helped with flyers, I helped with promotions, and I just wanted to be it was a form of, love. And yeah. I just wanted to make sure that they had a good showing. And then throughout those years, I started to realize that like obviously bartending and late nights were not conducive to being a actress and filming, and I needed to have a side gig just so that I could supplement income and be able to create my own films, write, do all those things, and not be like home at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
So I started kind of just doing social media stuff and things like that for people, created an events firm with my friend, and it started kind of trickling from there. And then kind of like jumped over into kind of like the beverages world and then events a little bit. And then finally I was like, I'm just going to do Samoyloff PR because all of my credit is being taken by all these men that were my bosses, right? And they were getting all the money that I was making, and I was going everywhere and doing all the things. So I was like, I'm going to just go out on a limb and create Samoyloff PR. So I
Love it.
did. And I just started small. I, was working with musicians, and I look back and I think about like, my retainers, which were like so little. Like I think about it, you're like, how was I asking people for like $300 to do like a whole month's
Yeah.
work? It was
A whole
wild.
campaign. Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, oh my gosh. But I mean, I had to, I didn't have a name yet. Right. And so it went from there and then kind of segue into 2020 happened and the pandemic and everything got shut down and entertainment and all of that stuff completely wiped out like really the entertainment world. And I actually got contacted by Kellyanne Winget, who's been on your show, about helping her with PR for her private equity fund. And I was like, what is finance? What is private equity? I'm like, I don't know. But she's like, no, I have like a book. I'm going to do this. I'm like, okay. So it really kind of evolved from that point to be like, well, why don't I give the rock and roll experience to these female founders that she was working so closely with, right? And investing in. And she was introducing me to. And then it kind of steamrolled into where it is now today, where it's a lot of founders, startups, and just really helping women and making them the rock stars and their brands a rock star brand outside of their business. So that's
I love that so much. And it's so funny. I don't know if I knew the rock star component of it. And I just love it so much because truly women are rock stars. Like we just do it all, and we don't often do a good job of promoting ourselves and tooting our own horn. And we do need people like you that are going to sort of push us maybe outside of our comfort zone. Kelly is a force to be reckoned with. So she probably realized what she needed to do in order to get visibility, but not all women sort of have that level of confidence. But we all do, I think, have an impact to make. And so I really love what you do and how you help women. I actually also recently saw that you are sort of asking people to, speak to them, right? You're sort of putting it out there like, hey, I'm willing to sort of talk to you. And I love that you're doing that because I think women do need to get started in just talking about themselves, even planting that seed. So I when I saw that, I was like, oh, I love that you're doing that. So good.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I think it's just that, the seed needs to be planted. I feel like we think so small and then we don't realize that we can be so much larger. And it doesn't mean that you have to take up space in a loud way. You could be quietly, you can have a slow burn, but it still is like, here I am and I'm not green. Like I deserve to be in the room, but you don't have to scream. Some
No.
people, it works for their brand. Yell, be loud, but some people can quietly walk into the room and still have that same powerful presence. It's just about finding what feels the best. And
Yeah.
it's nice to discover that with people.
So you have such a creative background and you've kept that going as well, which is super cool. Were you always someone who was, creative, writing, you wanted to be an actor, but you also you're a writer, a producer, a poet. Like when did that all kind of come out? Because that just inspires me so much.
Ever since I was a little kid, I always had such an imagination. Like I would make up, I had like these closet doors that were like mirrors. And I remember when I was like 5 or 6, I would make up these whole plays. And like I would just be like, oh, and they were always so romantic, right? Like they were always like, here's the prince and the dragon. And I'm like, oh, like my whole like life, I was just very animated, right? So I did do the acting bit. The writing part didn't come until after or within the college circuit, like when I was in speech and debate. That's when it really kind of took its finesse and me finding my words. And then, poetry just became kind of like my journal. Like I didn't even know, I discovered a lot about myself and what came through the pen. And so it was like a diary, a journal, and it's really got me through a lot and also helped me discover what I was going through at certain places in my life. And so it's just creatively just being vulnerable. And I never was expected to share it. And then I got encouraged by my best friend to send it out.
Aw.
And, it was well received. But yeah, creatively, I always have had that creative side of me.
I feel like so many women have we are so multidimensional, and I don't know if the world sort of sees us like that. So many women that are entrepreneurs, you ask them, what do they do? And they tell you about their business. And then they tell you about the 5 other things that they do as well, or the
Yeah.
3 other businesses that they have on top of it. So
Mhm.
when it comes to getting visibility,
Mhm.
when women are multi-passionate like that, there's so many different ways to go. How do you sort of help women to figure out what's the right path to be going down?
Yeah. I mean, like when we first work with somebody and like, I mean, you could DIY this yourself, or DIY it, right? And it's really figuring out a 360 review of yourself, right? And so we tend to interview everyone around, like we ask like 3 or 4 people around our client to have a conversation with them, to talk about like their experiences with them or any kind of stories, whether it's familial or if it's somebody that's worked with them or, their partner or whoever. It's a way to like see the back of your head. And you could do this like by creating a like Google like form and be like, here's some questions and ask some people that like, what did you experience? What is like what is one of the craziest stories that about like our relationship with regards to my business or not regards to my business? And then really kind of like making this full circle like approach to like who am I and what kind of impacts have
Mm,
I made even in my own circle, right? Because that's where it starts. It's always
mm,
innately whatever you are, you're doing towards the people that you love mostly, right? Or the people that you've worked with, they see it. And you might not even see some of the things that you do. So that's like a first start. And then from there
mm,
you can go, okay, well, what is my business and how is those impacts going to help this audience or that audience? What is the problem that I'm trying to solve? Why
yeah.
and like what does the future look like once this business does actually go forward, as far as startups? Like what does it look like? And then that's kind of when you go, oh, and then you reverse engineer it, right? Go, okay, this is what it looks like. And if you had like the opportunity to be in the article or the media outlet of your dreams, right? What would your headline be? Like, what would it be?
Mm,
And you can take time to think about this, and like, okay, what would it be? Like, what would it say? And then again, reverse engineer that. How do I get to that headline based off of all the
mm,
people I contact? And then you start from, if you're in the beginning, you start low, right? You start with like some really, really low seated like podcast, I would say, like things, and I wouldn't say low seated, I would just say like things that are like easier to get onto just so that you can get visibility, get comfortable having a conversation on like, a Zoom or whatever, right? Start
yeah.
kind of there. There's a lot of different aspects. Like there's Canvas Rebel, there's like Voyage, LA, Dallas, I think it's in New York too. There's Authority Magazine. These things
Yeah.
you can actually apply to yourself. If you look,
Yeah.
you can submit, and there's like a 99% chance that you're going to get on that. And then you go ahead and you write all this stuff out. Again, visibility. So now you have these articles out there. You're getting podcasts. People can hear you as evergreen. They can hear your personality. Wonderful.
Mm,
And so now you're starting to build presence. And from there, like I would say, like, especially for like business women, LinkedIn is so important. It's
mm,
so important. It's like
mm.
connect with everybody, start going on the networking site, like where it goes, grow your network and look and connect with people that are in your circles or like or would be beneficial to your business and start growing from there. I think that's kind of where you should really start is like figuring out what your brand voice is, your story, and then, doing those kind of lower level media placements.
I love that. It's such great advice because I think what happens is there's this disconnect from where you are to where you want to be. I want to be quoted in the New York Times or the Wall Street
Mhm.
Journal or get on the Today Show.
Mhm.
And, you eventually can get there, right? And especially if you do develop your network and you build relationships with the producers for those publications and shows and all that.
Mhm.
But I love this advice of sort of starting small, starting even local, right? I mean,
Mhm.
you can be in local publications and let people know what it is that you're doing. Establish yourself as a go to expert when it comes to whatever the area is. And I think a lot of times people want to step over that part of it. They don't want to do these local smaller things because
Mhm.
it's not that big splash. But
Mhm.
the advice to do that, to also find your voice, refine your voice, figure out how you say certain things, what the impact. Then when you get to the Today Show,
Mhm.
you're gonna know better what to say and how
Exactly.
to show up.
Yeah, it's basically like you're like, okay, let me practice. Like it's almost like, I would like put it back to like speech. These are all the prelims, right? Like get in
Yep.
there, get noticed, and then you get to finals. And when you're in finals, you're going to be so good that you're going to get the national championship, right? You're going to
Oh
get it.
my God.
But but you have to do the practice, and that's a great way to start, I think.
Yeah.
It's a great way to kind of finesse and figure out what your story is, and when people ask you questions, you start to discover a lot more things about yourself as well and like how you want to
Yeah.
say it. So,
Yeah. I love that.
yeah,
So do you exclusively work with women entrepreneurs or do you have a whole set of clients from all different areas?
all different areas. Yeah. Obviously, like right now, I feel like that's kind of like the wave that's happening and I love it. And, please let it keep coming. But yes, we
Yes.
work with everyone. Yeah, we are not in a niche of anything, which I love. I think that's also my ADHD that's like, I want to learn about this other business. Let's go here. Like, yes,
Yeah.
bring it on. So, yeah.
Oh my gosh. So you haven't had the PR business for all that long. It's sort of a pre and post pandemic type. And I mean, I am so impressed with all of the different clients that you have. If somebody wants to hire a PR person
Mhm.
because they know that their business is growing, at what point do you sort of recommend people to hire or bring on a PR person? Because there, like you said, there's stuff that you can do on your own, but then
Mhm.
there's going to come a certain point where you need that extra help from an expert. So when should someone sort of look to hire a PR person?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like we do also branding aspects. So like a lot of people will come to us that might not be quite ready, but like so if this was so like we would be like, okay, so this is what I would say, like what that part looks like until we're ready for PR. Is your website look great? You need to have a website for sure. What do your social
Mhm.
medias look like? Do you have your logos ready? Which we can create all those too, but it's logo, website? Are you like having sales? Is your product launched or is it about to launch? And if it is about to launch, please get a PR person at
Mm,
least 9 weeks before, just so that they can get it ready. I mean, people think about PR way too late. That's the
yeah.
problem. They're like, I'm going to launch this in 3 weeks. And it's like, well, this is going to be really tough.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's just about getting like, just being prepared and like also having the time and the budget for it because
Yeah.
PR is not cheap, but it's because of all the work that goes into it. And it is collaborative, which means the more you work and meet us in the middle, the better your campaign's going to go. So that's
Yeah.
kind of where this
That's
time.
so important. And I know a lot of times women entrepreneurs that come to the She Leads conference and everything, they ask a lot of these questions about, hiring a PR agency. And, you mentioned before, like doing all of this stuff for $350 a month or something, right? A lot of the women entrepreneurs are sort of in that mindset of like, hey, I've got, $500 a month and it's just sort of not enough. And they think there needs to be a little bit more education around everything that does go on, because
Mhm.
you are out there constantly building relationships with all these different publications. You are always scanning the environment for opportunities and where can your clients fit into that. And that's not like an hourly thing that you do. And
Mm-mm.
people don't necessarily understand that. And I always try to educate people like, listen, you need to set aside a certain amount of money, and you need to know that, it's going to take a while for things to bake and get going. You're not getting into, New York Times when you hire an agency a week before. It's just not
No,
happening.
it's not. No. And it's
Yeah,
like, because also the publications, like they take a while to, publish, right? Like
of
some of them
course.
take 3 to 4 months. Like you'll do an interview and then they'll put it out. So it's like, that's also important to realize that like if you have a launch coming out and you want to be in the, like you could get in Forbes, but it might not come until after the launch. So it's just those things that like
Yeah.
need to be thought of. And it's like also like for us, it's like, yeah, again, we're every day emailing, we're researching every journalist, we're looking at what the news is, like what's happening. We're like not only like submitting to podcasts, we're submitting to radio, to media outlets, to speaking engagements, to networking events. Like it's
Yes.
all the time, constant. So and also you think about it, especially with like a boutique agency, you get who you get to meet. Like that is your team, right? You're not going to
Yeah.
get like in a big PR firm where you're going to get their like a new assistant, something, you're going to get the entire boutique. And
Yeah.
if you think about it, you get 4 people working for you for that. And so it's like, wait a minute, now I got 4 employees. So
Yeah.
if you think about it in those terms, it kind of like makes that money seem a little bit less intense.
Right. It has a lot of value. There's a lot of
Mhm.
impact there.
Right.
And a lot of times, what we talk about at the She Leads conferences and even on this podcast is
Mhm.
like, women do need to do a lot to get visibility. I always say, like, I try to help women get the visibility that they deserve. I really do. And I know that word can be triggering, but I really do believe that women do deserve more visibility than we get. A lot of the media, focuses in on a certain group of people, or they turn to a
Mhm.
certain handful of people as experts. And there's so many other women and diverse voices out there that they could be turning to. But unless you put yourself out there, you're not going to get those opportunities.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, just stepping out there is like the first, like, that's the thing, right? They want to know. And right now, like, you could also go on Haro and Quoted, which
Yes.
are both free. But those are places that you can find you can be like, oh, I'm an expert in this and pitch yourself there and start really putting yourself out there just as a quote. Like, those are quotes, right? Like, someone's writing an article, they ask for an expert quote. Now you have all of this stuff to show people, like, hey, I was in
Yeah.
this. They interviewed me, right?
And I think we have to first and foremost also claim our expertise. So forget about pitching, right? Like, first and foremost, we have to believe it for ourselves that we actually do have something to say and something to contribute. Is
Mhm.
that something that you find sometimes when clients come to you, especially because, we're talking women entrepreneurs? Do you feel like that's something that women have to do some work on, like do some internal work about claiming their
Absolutely.
expertise?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I have worked with a lot of women that because we pull the founders outside of their brand and make them sit on top, and they're like the horse and the chariots behind them, that's their business, they're in front. A lot of them were safe, felt comfortable behind the scenes, but once we put them forward, it blew up. Like their company, it's like, okay, because now people see you and they do trust you. However, it took a long time. It's scary. It's imposter syndrome. Like, why am I the one to say this? And I'm like, why are you not the one? It's
Yeah.
like, I think instead of saying, why am I the person? It's like, why are you not?
Yeah.
What are you not like? There's only one of you, right? And that's going to contribute so much to the world. And if you like dim your light, right? Like Marianne Williams says, it's like, when you let your light shine, you unconsciously give everyone a reason to do the same. I'm obviously
Yeah.
butchering this, but Marianne
No,
Williams said,
you're not.
then it's a great quote. If you guys want to look it up, check it out. It's beautiful.
Yes.
It's a beautiful quote. I butchered it. But it means like shine your light so that it encourages other women too. And I think we're in a really cool place right now with all of these like women's networks, like She Leads, live, that it's just empowering women. And, obviously some people are weird about empowerment because we already have power, but like, showing up and being supported and showing our light. Right. And I think a lot more women are starting to do that. So that's good.
Yeah, I really hope so. And I do hope that some of the more established publications also do a better job of seeking out other types of voices. I think I read something the other day. It was about the AI industry, and an
Mhm.
article was written in the New York Times. And every single expert that was quoted on AI in that New York Times article was a man. And it just
Like,
doesn't
of course.
represent all of the people that are, behind this AI movement. And yet people aren't reading the New York Times like they used to. Let's start there. But when they
Mhm.
do read something like that, it's an established publication, it has high credibility. All of a sudden you think to yourself, well, the people that are in the AI industry, they're just guys. And if you're a woman reading that, or you hear people talking about that, you start to feel like you don't belong. And I feel like that
Mhm.
has been something that we as women, and then women entrepreneurs, have really got to overcome. And putting yourself out there in the media, even if it's, even if you're not getting the biggest splash or whatever, it doesn't matter. It's like, let's just
Mhm.
keep beating that drum so that,
Mhm.
if you see me and I'm quoted in the media, well, if I can do it, then you can too. And that's why I love your quote from Marianne Williamson, because we do need to shine our light so much brighter. We really do.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, right? Like, it's like change happens like in small increments. It doesn't happen in a big bang. So, like, the more that women are like stepping up and showing up, and it is true. It's like even like listening to you. It's like when I think even AI, and maybe it's just even program, I do think very masculine, very male, like centered. But I've talked to about 3 women last week, even that are all in AI and doing stuff within tech and stuff. And so, but it's like, that's why I'm like, let's get out there, like, let's get ahead of this. And it's not just this male, centric new development. And it wasn't because of women, it was because of
Right.
men. It's not. So I
It's
totally
not.
agree. And
Yeah.
yeah.
So if you're an AI expert listening in, get yourself
Yes.
out there, hire Amanda so that we
Hire
can
me,
like
like,
do,
you
yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. For just a quick couple seconds, I want to shift gears a tiny bit, because I want to focus in on your just creativity and your poetry. Can you just share with us what you like to sort of express in your creative, from your creative side? Not the PR branding, not that that's not completely creative, because it is, but this other more personal, I think, aspect of you. Can you talk to us just a little bit about the things you think about and the things that you sort of express?
Sure. Yeah. I honestly, most of the poetry came to me when I was on like a hiking trail, or when I was like trail running here in California. There's a lot of trails by me. So I like kind of grew up in that. So, like, once my body was in motion, my brain was able to focus. And
Hmm.
it came from like, I think a lot of the stuff was, things that came up while I was going through it, like trying to explain like what, like within a scene, right? A lot of my stuff is
Hmm.
very like lyrical. It's like almost like a set, right? Like it's set in a place, it's not
Hmm.
as I don't know what the word is, and I'm not going to say it. I don't know what it is, but like it sets you up. Like you feel like you're in a bar. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm in a bar. I am this person. This is what's going on. So it was a lot of breakups. It was a lot about like the struggles with my father when he was alive. It's a lot of like relationship things, and
Hmm.
also just a lot of growth. There was a lot of
Hmm.
times and chapters. So like it's interesting, like each chapter of my life, you can see like the poems kind of shifting. Like there's a lot of really happy poems in one like time. And then there's kind of like these like really sad, like emotional ones, like I'm never
Yeah.
gonna find when I was younger, like,
Yeah.
all that stuff. The angst. And it really just comes from here, like my heart. Like I don't technically sit down and go, I'm just going to like start writing. It like usually comes to me. But
Mm.
I did do an exercise that did help where I like had all these people vote for three, like I gave 9 words and I said, vote for which words you want. And like in 24 hours, I'll write a poem. And so they would vote for it and I would pick the three. Like, so there'd be like canvas, like blue and boat. And then I would write a poem around
Wow.
that. And so that was a really cool, it was stressful because I like put this like 24 hours on myself,
Yeah.
but it forced non-perfection because I was in a perfectionist state. So I
Mm.
like had to produce something and whatever it was, it was. And it
Mm.
really ended up like kind of breaking open another level of writing for me, I think. So that was cool too.
I just love to show different aspects of people because we aren't just one thing. And I do
Mhm,
think that other creative aspect of ourselves, I do think that we need to talk about that more because no
mhm,
matter what it is that you're doing, it's informing your work. And then your work is also informing your creativity, your poetry, your writing, all of it. And
mhm.
I just sort of think that sometimes, especially women entrepreneurs, we get so hyper focused on our business and growing our business. And we, as much as we want to make an impact and move our business forward, sometimes we forget about who we are. And so I hope that just by listening to you, that other people are also encouraged to really honor those other parts of themselves because that can't do anything but help you be a more fully formed human being.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and to say like to piggyback off of that, like I was so in like for a year and a half, I didn't write any poem. I was so in my business, like this is it. And my reward system was only if I succeeded in a client placement or like what was happening. And like, so then when I went to try to write, my reward system it wouldn't reward me, right? Because like my dopamine hits were only coming from work because I was so
Yeah.
in. So like I had to stop and like I had to be like, you have to stop work at this time. Like this is
Yeah.
your end of day and like go and like shut it down, like how you like, your end of day like routine and like go outside and go write and like do the things that you want so that you can like rearrange your like reward system because if your reward system is only linked to work, you're going to hit burnout. You're going
Yep.
to hit depression. You're going
Yep.
to feel like everything sucks and you don't have great relationships. It's just so about work. So
Yep.
I will say, like, I've been there for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if
I
anybody
can
listening, I can totally relate.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely fall into that trap and because it is addictive, right? It's like you want to
Mhm,
help people, you want to get the placements, you want to accomplish the work, check all the boxes and do all of that. But at the end of the day, if you're not then filling yourself back up, then you're not going to be a good business person. And I
mhm,
definitely have over the last months, years, I don't know, trying to be a lot more conscious about
mhm.
doing things like practicing art. Like I go to an art class and it's
Yeah.
frustrating though, because it's like I'm terrible. But I know I'm not terrible, but I'm terrible in the moment. And I'm like, gosh, it's so frustrating, but I love it at the same time. And it's almost like it doesn't even matter what it turns out to be. It's just the
Mhm,
practice of it, which I think is so filling like for my soul and it's something that I got away from for a really long time and I'm like that's part of who I am and
mhm.
I think so many women I think we're talking about this just because I think so many women can relate to this because we're so pressured to be like this super incredible successful entrepreneur and it's like we
Mhm.
want that but we can't also turn our backs on who we are like inside so
Exactly. I mean, there's just so much pressure to be like perfect. Like if you're a CEO founder, like you're supposed to have it all, like you've got it figured out. And it's like, so then you like feel guilt and there's shame, like, oh, why am I ending work early to go do this other thing for me? Because I need to work on my business. Right. And it's
yeah
like, but if you don't work on yourself, your business isn't going to go anywhere. It's just going to stop
yeah
because you're not growing. So then your business can't grow. So
Yes.
this is kind of
Oh, so good. Shine the light. You can't grow if your business doesn't grow. I think there's a lot of like golden nuggets in this conversation. Amanda, I just love talking to you. Please keep sending me the incredible women that you are working with. I love having them on the show. I love talking to them and learning about them, and like through, by extension, also learning about you and everything that you're doing. So just thank you so much for spending your time with me today. How can people get in touch with you, hire you, have you help them with branding and PR and all the things?
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. You're incredible. You're phenomenal. You can find me at www.SamoyloffPR, which is SamoyloffPR.com. You can also find Samoyloff PR on LinkedIn, Instagram, all the social media. So you can contact us there. And also, we're going to have a lot of templates that are going to be for sale so that you can do DIY stuff yourself. So a lot of different things about PR that are going to be more manageable within the next couple of weeks. So hopefully it'll be out by the time you guys hear this. And that's where you can find us.
I love that so much. I'm going to actually, when I see that, I'm going to put a link on my website too, because so many people ask me about PR. So I will link over to your sites as an amazing resource, because we do need to start this stuff on our own. And then when we get to a point, we need to hire you. So
yes, perfect. Yes. That's amazing.
Thank you so much. This was so much fun.
So much fun. Thank you so much.
This and all of our episodes are brought to you by the She Leads Podcast Network, the podcast network for women, by women. Thanks so much for listening to the She Leads podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support us, please share it with others, make a personalized post about what you took away on social media, and please leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. This helps our guests and our show to continue to gain visibility and traction. To learn more about how She Leads Media helps women to gain visibility, you can follow us on Instagram at She Leads Media, or you can head on over to SheLeadsMedia.com. If you'd like to network with me and other amazing women, don't forget to join us each year for the She Leads Live conference. Thanks again, and we'll see you soon. This is the She Leads Podcast Network.